there. And now I'm in the management committee and I work alongside our current chair, and I really see what a hard job and what a committed person you need to be to carry on with that. And your legacy does live on. So thank you very much, Sudaya. It's really greatly appreciated. So,
Fantastic.
thank you. Okay, well, this is great having to ask another order member this, because we normally don't get the chance. But the first question, Sudaya, is going to be, what first attracted you to, at that time, it would have been the FWBO at the start?
Oh, well, I was in my early 40s, and I had managed to fulfill most of my dreams. I was living in the country. I had a couple of dogs. I had some sheep. I had a really good job. I worked in IT. I worked in tech support in a hospital. Everything seemed to be going well, and I'd done all the things I wanted to do, but my life was empty. I knew there was something more, there had to be something more important than just getting the next thing, doing the next thing. And I'd had an affinity with Buddhism most of my adult life, but somewhere I kind of got this assumption that you had to be Asian, or you had to live in India, or there was some connection with the Far East that would have made Buddhism a possibility. But because I lived in the UK, it didn't feel like it was something I could pursue. So I kind of just put it to one side. But it kept popping up, I'll say that. And so when I was aware of just kind of biding my time in my early 40s. And then two good friends of mine, independently, I found out they were Buddhist. And I thought, wow, you can do it here. You know? And they both recommended that I would like to go along to an FWBO center. The main reason for that was that they told me that the FWBO was queer friendly. And I'd had some concerns about getting involved with a group because I'd lived quite an isolated life. I was a lesbian. I'd been living in the country for 10 years, and joining a group was a really big thing. Just becoming more public, I suppose. We're talking about 25 years ago in the UK, and coming out was a big deal. And these friends said, oh, look, the FWBO is quite happy. Lots of gay people go to the FWBO. You'll be fine. So that was what gave me the courage to step through the door of the Bristol Buddhist Centre at the end of 1993, that was. Yeah.
Fantastic. So when did you first learn to meditate?
Oh, when I was at university, I was a bit of a hippie. I mean, I was perfect time, late 60s. I was at university in Edinburgh, and I did something called transcendental meditation, which is still around today. And I can just remember thinking, wow, it's okay to turn inwards and just kind of be with yourself. And I did it quite seriously, probably for a year or two. And then, you know, you drift away, you get involved in other things. But I kept the memory of how to do it. And whenever I was having a hard time, I would remember, oh, I can do that thing called meditating. And I would, you know, I had a little mantra that I would chant, and that was me doing my transcendental meditation. So that was the beginning, but then I drifted away. And I think I tried several times getting a book out of the public library and reading how to do it. And I'd sit on my own and try to work out how to do it. And just realizing it wasn't that satisfying. So it wasn't until in the early 90s, my sister, who lived in Melbourne, Australia, I was living in the UK, she got seriously ill. She got cancer, and she decided she wanted to learn to meditate to help deal with the pain. So I wanted to support her in doing that. So I said, okay, I'll learn to meditate too. So that was when I decided I would go along to the Bristol Buddhist Centre and learn. For some reason, I hadn't put meditation and Buddhism in the same basket. Buddhism was about a philosophy of life, and meditation was a kind of tool that you could use. And suddenly I realized, this was at 43, I realized that meditation and Buddhism went together. And that was quite an eye-opener for me. Yeah. So yes, I went along to Bristol Buddhist Centre in November 1993.
And why did you want to join an order like the FWBO at the time?
Oh, I would never, if you had told me, well, at that time, if you told me any of my future, I would not have believed you. But particularly, I wasn't big on joining, as I've said, even just kind of going along and being part of the Sangha was a big deal for me. You know, I was an introvert, I'd always been a loner. I didn't really ever want to join anything. But while I was going along to the regulars classes at the Bristol Buddhist Centre, there weren't any women order members there at the time. And one week they had invited 2 women order members from London to come down and visit. So these were the first women order members I had met, and they blew me away. I realized that they were very different to each other. One was an artist and one was much more kind of serious, and not that artists aren't serious, but she was older and more like sort of housewifey in her kind of manner. So I realized, oh, there isn't one way of being an order member. They look very different. But they both, I remember reflecting afterwards, they both had qualities, the same qualities of clarity, confidence, and kindness. And these were the 3 qualities that really struck me. And I decided then, I want to be like that. Unfortunately, I thought that by becoming an order member, I would be like that. And then somebody told me it's actually the other way around. You develop the qualities and then you can become an order member. So that was quite an important turnaround for me. But yeah, there was something about clarity, confidence, and kindness. But I was quite good with clarity. I was not bad with kindness, but the confidence was something I lacked completely. Yeah.
And how do you see that the order has changed since becoming an order member?
Oh, well, when I became an order member, there were somewhere I'm going to just look for it. Somewhere I've got some statistics. Yes, the order has more than doubled in size since I joined. I was almost the 1000th order member. Those of us who were on my ordination retreat were hoping that one of us would be number 1000, but then some Indian order members were getting ordained at the same time and they jumped in a few days before us. And so it was an Indian order member who was actually number 1000. And now we're up to 2,300 and something. So yeah, more than doubled in size. The other main difference is when I joined, 12% of the order were women, and now it's up to 39%. So that change has been enormous. There's been a huge increase in the number of women becoming order members, and not only becoming order members, but taking leading roles as order members in Triratna. So that's been really different. Other major changes in the order, the myriad ways of practicing as an order member, and that's partly what you're experiencing for getting these talks going, is to show how many different ways there are to practice. Different meditation practices, different interests, different lifestyles. We're becoming more and more aware of the need for proactive engagement to support diversity, whether it's gender diversity, racial diversity. We're maturing as an order in being able to deal with all of these things. Institutionally, the International Council has come into being, Preceptors College have come into being. There are many more institutions and structures. Part of me rails against that, I liked the early days when it was flying by the seat of your pants and nobody quite knew what the rules were. It was very much based on friendship because there was a small enough number that most people knew each other. As it got bigger, it needed these structures. These structures are instrumental in holding the whole thing together. We need them. We need ways of dealing with money and decision making. So they're important, and I think they're demonstrating how Triratna has become a major player in the Buddhist world. You know, we have structures, we have institutions, as well as still being this informal network of people who just make friends with each other. Yeah, yeah.
So both in your early days and up to now, what has surprised you most about life in the order?
Oh, in my early days, once I was in the order, I realized that it didn't matter that I was newly in the order. Like when you're outside of it, you think, oh, I'm going to be a junior order member and there's going to be these senior order members, that it was very hierarchical in some way. And then once I was an order member, like within a year, I could become friends with people who were senior order members, and they didn't kind of refer to me as, oh, well, you're just a junior order member. So that idea of everybody had made the same commitment. It wasn't that because you'd been around for 20 years, you'd made that much more commitment. We were more kind of equal than I had anticipated. So something about the spiritual depth, the spiritual commitment was more important than the seniority, put it that way. I think I can remember giving a talk as a new order member. I was living at Taraloka at the time, and I suddenly realized how much I had changed from being somebody who was very unconfident, introverted, a bit of a lost soul. Suddenly I was standing there proud to be representing the Dharma in a way. I was giving a talk and it was like, oh, this is me, I'm doing this. And I was a bit shocked. I think the talk was on metta, which was a bit of a theme for me. But that was a mark of, yeah, how surprised I could be by myself being in the order, I guess. Yeah. Now, more recently, just the increase in the range of personalities, the talents that are expressing their love of the Dharma, the people who have just so many different talents, whether it's tech or art or philosophy or whatever. We just have people who can do everything, and I love that. There are many things that could divide us: political beliefs, race, gender, lifestyles, but we know that the culture in the order supports us to keep alive this intention to rise above those differences and just connect as Dharmafarers. We've all made the same commitment. We've all taken the same lines of acceptance. And we can rise above the differences. And just because the Dharma is so precious, that's what we want to focus on. Yeah.
Thank you. How do you think the order has responded to the COVID pandemic? And have you been able to maintain your connections in it?
I think there's been amazing creativity in embracing Zoom. I think we have this cornucopia of retreats, meditations, discussions, study groups, talks online, in a way that pre-COVID, we just weren't doing it. So it has made possible forms of communication and ways of practicing together that I think in some ways have really strengthened the order. It's been lovely for me because I've had my first 10 years of Dharma life in the UK and I got to know a lot of order members there. Now I can sign up for a talk and I spend the whole time just flicking through the Zoom screen, kind of waving at old friends and not doing whatever we're meant to be doing. So yeah, Zoom has been the Dharma's friend, I would say, about that. I'm very aware of the work that the order is doing in India. COVID is just having such a horrible effect over there, and the order's charitable work is essential, and there's a lot of people putting a lot of time and effort and money into trying to help out the situation in India. So generally, I think people, obviously, I mean, the Melbourne Buddhist Centre's been closed, all the retreat centres are closed, there's hardship involved in that. But there's also an element of, wow, we're going to really appreciate it when we can do that again. This enforced separation from things we love is a good time for reflection, in a way. People having to spend more time at home, more time alone, reflecting, can't be a bad thing. The pandemic has allowed, my chapter used to meet fortnightly, and I used to have to drive into Melbourne to do that, and others also were living remotely, and we've arranged to meet weekly, which we would never have done to meet physically, and so that feels really good. We have a weekly chapter meeting on Zoom, supporting each other in our Dharma life. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you talked a little bit about reflection. Now we're going forward. So, what do you most appreciate about looking ahead in your order life?
Oh, seeing the order continue to grow. I'm part of the ordination training team for women, and I love seeing women join that process of training for ordination, and seeing the order continuing to grow, and every individual who joins again brings this new jewel into the mandala. The order is only the sum of the people who are in it, and the bigger it gets, the more diverse that sum becomes, and everybody is keen to learn and to grow. I've been very moved by recently something called Courageous Conversations About Race, which is a response to the Black Lives Matter movement, where order members and mitras are talking about the effect of being a person of color in Triratna, and just the way people are happy to engage with that is really, really valuable. Looking ahead, I trust that the friends I have in the order, some of whom are here, many of whom are here tonight, they will stay my friends. That's such a lovely thing to know, that the people I became a mitra with, people I got ordained with, there's something about that Sangha, the strength of the friendship in the Sangha, that I have a lot of faith in that. Yep.
Okay.
What else? I like seeing the Triratna order playing a role in the Buddhist world. We have people who are involved in interfaith and inter-Buddhist meetings and organizations, and I feel like that's us kind of being grown up and taking responsibility for the effect that we can have in the world, and not just in the Buddhist world, but in society in general. I think the Triratna is really taking its place in our society. Yeah.
Okay, well that wraps up my set of questions. So thank you so much for giving us some insight into your
That's all right.
Your order life. It's very interesting, but we have a couple of questions that have come through.
Before we go to them, I meant to show you some pictures. I was so moved by Amita Shratta's slideshow. I thought, I'll try and dig out some photos. So I'm going to quickly do a little share screen.
Yeah, great, fantastic.
If I can, and show you, where is it? There. So here I am, age 6. I grew up on a farm in central Scotland. I was the youngest of 6 children, blended family, So yeah, two lots of half brothers and sisters. Scruffy was how I described my childhood, living on a farm. We had no electricity, so life was pretty basic, pretty hard. Scotland was cold, which is one of the reasons I'm now in Australia. This was my mitra ceremony. And my dear friend Drala Malini, she and I, some people probably know this story already, I tell it quite often. We turned up at the Bristol Buddhist Centre at about the same time. And we both signed up for an introduction to meditation course. So we both learned a 6-week meditation course. We later on became regulars at the Bristol Buddhist Centre, and around the same sort of time, we asked to become mitras. We weren't able to become mitras because there wasn't an order member, a woman order member at the centre, and we had to wait about a year before we were allowed to become mitras. And then we had our mitra ceremony together. And then within a year or two of that, we both independently asked to train for ordination. She was working as a dentist. She had 2 children and a husband, a very conventional life. I was living in the country. I was a bit wild, a bit of an introvert. We were very, very different people. And so we entered the ordination training process at the same time. And we actually got ordained in the same year. So we each took, I think it took 6 years. And she had always said, oh, I would get ordained first because I'd gone off to live in a retreat center and I'd met all these order members and whatever. And she was at home bringing up her kids. And actually, it's nothing to do with your lifestyle. Your training for ordination is about your integration and your deepening faith and all of that. So that's Drala Malini. Oh, and the comparison continues because not only did we join the order the same year, we both became chairs of centers within a couple of years of each other. Drala Malini became chair of the Bristol Buddhist Centre around the time I became chair of Melbourne Buddhist Centre. And now we've both retired from that job. So yeah, lovely connection to have. And we built that shrine together, the 2 of us, all the orange fruit and everything. Yeah, that was fun. And this is my public ordination, which happened in Italy. I was ordained with Shanti Devi, and some of you might have heard her talking about her ordination. We hadn't really known each other before then because she lived in London and I lived in Taraloka. But here we are in Il Convento in Italy. I think there were about 25 of us who were ordained on the same day. Sangha Devi, there was my public preceptor. Now some of you will find yourselves here. This is the first retreat I went on with the Melbourne Buddhist Centre. So we're at St. John's and it's January 2005. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women who were friends and mitras there who are now in the order. And there was Maitapala, Nagashuri, and me. I think Nagashuri was leading the retreat on the Tathagata. So that was one of the events that helped me decide that I could come and live in Melbourne and work for the centre. And this was the centre team after I became chair. We're still in Pitt Street. You remember the lotuses on the shrine room wall? And Sadhvajaya, Shanti Devi and Jivita and I made up the Thursday night regulars team. So that's all. I just wanted to show you that to, how do I get out of here? There we go. I just wanted to show you that little sideline. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go to the, we have a couple of questions here. Now, the first one is from Giracharita. Now, it's got here, with things that have presented challenges such as interests or non-interests in discipline, and things that have appeared easy such as carpentry or management, what has been most helpful in bringing balance?
Oh, good question. One of the things about having skills is that you don't kind of value them because you have them. And I've always been more interested in the things I didn't have or the things I wanted to learn next, rather than acknowledging that there were things I was already good at. So I suppose it's a process of reflecting on bringing all of you along for the ride. So including all, it's part of integration, I guess, bringing all the bits of you together. So yes, I mean, carpentry was something that I did. I trained as a furniture maker way back when, and loved using my hands and creating beautiful objects. But I didn't enjoy the sort of people you had to work for, so I kind of lost interest in it. But that, like I can remember when I was living at Taraloka and I was living 100% Dharma life, living in the community, going on retreat, helping support retreats, whatever. I found the opportunity to carve a Vajra out of wood, and it was like that was bringing one of my previous skills into my Dharma life. That just felt really lovely thing to be able to do. So there's something about reflecting on how to bring things together, I guess. Does that help?
Diracharita?
You could nod, Diracharita.
Also the other two things, like such as the management being perhaps easy, but or not, and the interest or non-interest in discipline.
Interest or non-interest in discipline. Some sorts of discipline come easily to me, and some sorts I can't be bothered with. So is that what you mean by interest or non-interest in discipline? I wouldn't say management came easy to me. I had to learn a lot. If you think back to what I said about who I was before I joined Triratna, I was a loner, I was an introvert. I did not communicate well. I did not enjoy being in teams. But I had to put all of that, all of my preferences to one side and say, here's a job that needs to be done. I'm capable of doing this, so just get on with it. Whether I'm interested in something or not is less important than whether the job needs to be done. So I mean, that's true in my, my daily life. The washing up needs to be done. I'm not interested in it, but I'll do it. It kind of comes through in everything. And it's not just doing it, because the idea is not to do it with any sense of resentment or anger or frustration. It's like, oh, that's what I'm doing next. And bring yourself 100% into doing it. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Sudaya.
Question from Shani. What advice would you give to GFR Mitras?
Oh, the advice that I was given, I can remember being on a GFR retreat and going for a walk with Sangha Devi, who at that point I didn't know she was going to become my public preceptor. I was a bit scared of her. She was very, very serious. And I said to her something very similar. What's the most important thing I can do? And she said, take responsibility. If an opportunity to take up a role in the order or in the movement comes up, take it. Step into taking responsibility. First of all, responsibility for yourself and the effect that you have on other people, and then responsibility to help spread the Dharma. So that would, yeah, I think I would, at the time I wasn't that happy with the advice she gave me, but I think it's advice that I stand by today, that learning to take responsibility for yourself and then learning to take on a role to help the Dharma. Yeah. Thanks, Shani.
Okay. Question from Bronwyn. Sudaya, I feel like women involved with Triratna today are very aware of the legacy of women in the order. I'm wondering if you would be interested in commenting on female religious leadership. Do you view Buddhism as a religion? I know some people don't, and you did mention you viewed it as a philosophy.
In my early days, I was interested in it as a philosophy, which is different from saying it is a philosophy. I wanted rules to live by, and Buddhism gave me those. So from that point of view, I see it as a philosophy. I don't know what is a religion. It depends how you define it. Some people want Buddhism to be a religion, and so for them it probably is a religion. But the other part of the question was about women. Women leaders are increasing. It's like exponential, the growth across all religions. I think, women in the Christian church, for example, the last 20 years have seen this huge increase. I don't know about the Hindus at all, but I have a dear friend from my late 20s who is Jewish, and 2 years ago she became a rabbi. She lives in Canada, and it's a bit like she and I were on this kind of parallel path. We've been hippies together, and suddenly she's become a rabbi and I've become an order member. I just feel like women are taking on the world and stepping up. And it's been slow, and it needed to be slow because it had to really come from the heart. And I think it takes time. It took me time to develop confidence that I could just have a go and have an effect. I see, I think at the moment there are more women training for ordination than men. And that balance, like I said before, the number of women in the order, back in the early days, was 3, 4, 5. And then when I joined, I think there were 200, and now it's nearly half the order. So yeah. Thanks, Bronwyn.
Question from Rachel. Were you less intrigued to Eastern Buddhism because there wasn't much Western involvement as there is now? And do you feel different about it now?
Oh, yes. I mean, back then, we're talking, it's not that long ago, but through the 80s and 90s, we're talking pre-internet. And it's quite hard, I think it's quite hard for younger people to imagine what life pre-internet, pre-Google, pre-Wikipedia. If you wanted to find out something, you bought a book, or you went to the public library, or you found somebody to talk to. So I had a book written by Alan Watts, who I knew was American, but it was called The Way of Zen. And I kind of hung on to this book through all my moves around the world in my youth. I hung on to this book, but I never actually read it. But it meant something to me because here was an American who knew something about Zen. And it was a bit like, I knew Buddhism was going to have a huge effect on my life, and I wasn't quite ready for it yet. So I would have kind of little interest, but I wasn't going to let it take over, because I knew when it took over, that was going to be it. It was going to be completely taking over. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to question or make comment?
Thanks for that, Sudaya.
No problem.
Yeah, it's nice to hear your thoughts on it. And I resonated with the book thing. There's sometimes I feel like even if you hold on to a book, it's like whenever you read it, it's the right time to read it.
Yeah, it's going to be important, but you're not quite ready for it.
Yeah.
So just keep it there. Like my bedside table used to have this kind of stack of books that one day I would get to. Yeah. Yeah. Have we run out of time? We seem to have been going on a long time.
Oh, it's only 10 o'clock, so we're doing okay.
10 o'clock?
No, it's almost 5 to 9, so we're almost out of out of time. Anyone else would like to? Oh, sorry, Alan. Just take yourself off mute, mate. You can just speak now.
Yes, hi Sudaya. I haven't met you before, but I have heard of you. The question I basically have is, when you were at in the order and working in admin, what was it you were actually doing? What part did you play when you were in the business side of things?
Do you mean in Melbourne or before I came to Melbourne?
Before you came to Melbourne.
Before I was working in a retreat centre, which basically it's like running a hotel. So one minute you're changing sheets on the bed, the next minute you're taking bookings, the next minute you're buying in a week's supply of food, the next minute you're painting a wall. All the jobs involved in running a retreat centre. So there was desk work, there was gardening, there was maintenance work. But the main job we were all doing was self-work. We were all there because we wanted to grow. So it meant that you spent an hour every morning having a sort of team meeting before you could actually, and I was always like, I wanted to get on with the work. I wanted to go and paint the wall or dig the ditch or whatever. And it's, oh no, we have to sit in this team meeting for an hour. So there was, yeah, most of the jobs that come up in Triratna are not that specialized. So most people can do them, is what I would say, yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan. Bill was waving his hand.
Okay, I have a question. Helen Reddy, the Aussie singer-songwriter, died over the last day or so. She had an iconic song called I Am Woman, I Am Strong. Where were you when that came out, and did it have any effect on you?
Ooh. Was that 1971?
I think it was a bit later, but I thought it was in the 80s, but maybe I was wrong.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, gosh, all those sorts of songs were important, but I would have done it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I think yes, it's lovely to hear somebody else saying, "I am woman, I am strong." My mother taught me that, and that from when I was a tot. You know, she drove a truck, or you know, we lived on a farm, so she did all these farm jobs, and she was not afraid of anybody.
Sure.
And so I learned from my mother, really. So I have great gratitude for her for pushing me out into the world. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, if I can just finish off with one question, and this is coming from probably our management team. But the question is, what was the most enjoyable part of being chair, and what was the least enjoyable part of being chair?
Oh, I'll start with the least. Trying to get order members to volunteer to do things was such hard work. I didn't have the persuasion skills. And so, you know, I'd want there to be more events. I'd want there to be retreats and things happening and trying to get order members interested. I suppose because I felt so committed to the centre running well, I wanted every order member to be committed to that. And they were just getting on with their lives, doing whatever they were supposed to be doing. And that's where that diversity comes in. Not everybody is wanting the same sort of thing at the same time. And we all go through phases of being deeply involved in spreading the Dharma, and then maybe stepping back a bit, coming back in. So I can remember that being a really frustrating part of the job, trying to persuade people that they would be really good at running a day retreat or something. What did I enjoy the most? Oh, there were all sorts. The day we opened the David Street Centre, I think, was a highlight. You know, I hung out for that for quite a long time, and just to see everybody walking in, and we all went upstairs and put the cushions down on the bare floor. That was definitely a highlight. going to the, I used to go across to the international chairs events in the UK. And one year I went on the order convention because I was in the UK for the chairs event, and I was asked to give a talk to the women's convention, and that was a highlight. I was terrified. I mean, there were probably only 200 women there, but it was me stepping up and giving a talk to a big group about no, it wasn't so much about being chair, it was about taking responsibility, being in a position of responsibility. So that's what I talked about there, and that was a good thing to do. Yeah. But I suppose the main thing is just all those tiny interactions where you see somebody get interested in the Dharma, you see somebody stepping up, you see people making changes in their lives, whether I was chair or not. Just watching people connect with the Dharma is always going to move me most. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Sudaya, for sharing your life and your order life with us. It's been very entertaining, very pleasant to hear your experiences.